What is up, everyone? We are here with 7.26c, and my gosh, there are so many talent changes. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the last patch, there is one line of text that said, all talents are reduced approximately, or whatever the phrasing was, by about 20%. Now, there was a lot of outrage about this line of text, and I actually don't think this patch is addressing that, but it is now showing us a lot of changes that happen in following to that patch. However, this does not mean that they reverted it. I'm pretty sure the negative 20% to all talents still applies. This is just changing some even further, making some even worse, and making some even better. So we're gonna go over every single change here. It's mostly talent changes, but there's a couple item, a couple hero, and let's just get into it. And also, I want to ask you guys a quick question. If you're a support player and you've been struggling, I know this is a bit niche, but if you've been struggling with the mid and late game, I recently just did a very in-depth guide. It was about 30 minutes of gameplay. I reviewed one of my line games. It's part of a line course. It basically goes into the thought process of how I think about the game. How do I think when I'm trying to get into the mid game, make smoke plays, use my abilities efficiently? Absolutely everything you could think of is going to be in that video, so I think it's a super high level analysis that should help a ton of you guys. And if you're interested in that, click the link down below right now to get a discount on your gameleap subscription, right? So if you click the link down below and use the code, yeah, you're going to get a bit of a discount, which is pretty cool, and your boy Speed posts content there quite frequently, and we also have other people making content too, so there's so much cool stuff. So if you're trying to get better at Dota, this is the best thing you can do. I really do believe that. And now let's get into 7.26c. So right off the bat here, we have two neutral item changes. Number one, Royal Jelly buff is now duplicated on illusions. Well, I actually didn't know that it wasn't. I'm sure basically no one did. And most importantly though, now it has a global cast range, which is sad. Now you guys might be like, Speed, why is Royal Jelly having global cast range sad? Isn't that just a good thing? Well, let's say you're a support player, or you're a position 4 player, or you're an offlaner, and you manage to jungle up at the 7-minute mark, exactly at the 7-minute mark. Just the time passed, you did it intentionally. You did it intentionally. You were just jungling. You wanted that neutral item. You get a Royal Jelly. You're hyped. You're like, yes, HP regen and mana regen. This is the best thing that could ever happen. This is awesome. And now your mid lane Zeus starts spam pinging you because he knows that Royal Jelly has global cast range. Now, in all seriousness, yeah, this definitely will come into play. If you guys pick up Royal Jelly, make sure you consider, like, who needs it the most? Do I have a mana-starved hero, or a hero that needs to maybe, like, tank tower, such as a Centaur, so the regen can help him? Things like that. It's like, because this is a really good item on heroes like Ember, who are very active, or Timber. You know what I mean? Royal Jelly, I think, benefits them the most, so keep that in mind. Illusionist Cape now dies if the item is unequipped, so if you take your Illusionist Cape out of your neutral item slot, the illusion will die. So, yep, you can't do that anymore. Alchemist. There's a couple of talent changes, and we're going to go through all of them. It's actually unbelievably large amount, but getting into it, his level 10 talent was reduced from 20 attack speed to 15, and I think the main reason for this is that they see Alchemist as a threat right now, so instead of just changing the hero or nerfing the hero, they're just straight up nerfing basically every talent. Well, at least the strong talents. That's the main thing I've noticed about this patch, and I want you guys to keep that in mind as we go through. A lot of these changes are basically nerfing the good talents and buffing the quote-unquote bad talents that were unpopular. So we see here, 20 attack speed is down to 15. Unstable Concoction, however, is buffed to 6 seconds, which isn't too bad, because if we look at Alchemist, the Unstable Concoction is a 16-second cooldown, so with this talent, you can get it all the way down to a 10-second cooldown, and if you go back to the Octarine Core build, right, if you go all the way to Octarine Core reduces the cool time and spells by 25%. So I don't need the exact math, it confuses me sometimes, but you'll be able to reduce your stun to about a 7.5 second stun, which is pretty strong. That's pretty strong considering it has a 5-second charge up time. You're going to throw it probably after, 3 or 4 seconds usually, and therefore you're going to be able to stun a ton of people. The question now rises, because of this patch, do you go that build on Alch now? I think it's an option, and we'll continue to see throughout these changes. So the next one is that the 25 damage was reduced to 20, and the health was buffed to 350 from 325. Now I think you definitely take the health talent after this change. I already felt like the health might have been better. It might have been less picked, but I actually think the health is potentially just better, or was better, and now it got buffed, so just take the health. And then finally, the concoction damage was increased. So you can see Ice Frog here very, very clearly trying to say, hey guys, stop right-clicking so much on Alch. Take the concoction. Animage, level 25 talent increased from 40 mana void cooldown to 25. which is cool. If you go to NMH here, we're going to see that his ultimate is a 70-second cooldown. So noting that, this now brings it down to 25 seconds, which is, you know, very strong. That's quite a big reduction. Next up is Axe. Strength gain reduced from 3.6 to 3.4, and his level 10 talent was, well, that's kind of weird. He must be getting other buffs. Yeah, okay, he's getting mostly buffs. So his level 10 talent was increased from 6 strength to 8. His other level 10 talent is now, instead of 30 attack speed, 20 movement speed, which is, that's a cool one. The reason why that's a cool one is because 20 movement speed sounds very strong on Axe. However, 8 strength is quite a lot. That's 160 HP, right? And therefore, this is a hard one for me because movement speed on Axe is fantastic. A lot of people don't really understand. It's actually often better to be more mobile on Axe than tanky, I would argue. So yeah, this is a tough one for me. That one's definitely going to be up for debate. Maybe if you have the front line, then you take the strength, or if you're snowballing super hard and you just want to play dead lane, you take strength. But even movement speed is essentially health in a lot of situations, so kind of weird. Level 15 talent changed. Okay, so you lose the movement speed later on, but that was 25, only losing 5 movement speed for level 10, which is cool. All the way to 35 attack speed, incentivizing the right click axe, which is a thing, like meta axe. And level 15 talent reduced from 2.5 mana regen to 2, okay? Probably not going to take that. It's a bit too late. I think at that point you're going to have a wand and clarity is likely. And then level 25 talent increased from 80 Berserker's Call to 100. Pretty big buff considering that's AoE. So whenever something's AoE, even if it's a small change, it's quite a bit bigger than you might imagine. So Bane's level 10 talent was changed from 75 cast range to 15% magic resist, which is absolute garbage. That's pretty garbage. This is so bad for Bane, actually. I just feel like this is a hard Bane nerf. I don't know if there's any other way to look at it. Like, sure, you could argue Bane can be tanky. You could buy a bracer and a wand and tank some stuff as Bane. But I would much rather have my 75 cast range and not have to tank anything, right? I'd rather be that sacrificial position 5. And think about it, they just nerfed the amount of XP it takes to get to level 10, right? They just made it harder to get to level 10. And now, all of a sudden, you just don't get your cast range at level 10, which stinks for Bane. If you guys play Bane, you know this. You really, really like these cast range talents because Bane's cast ranges on most of his spells are kind of meh. They're not terrible, but they're meh. This is just a nerf. Do I even have to read the other ones? I mean, most notably here, right? The 15 talent is now cast range, but that's so late. And then the other important one is the level 20 talent was changed from 15% lifesteal to 3-second nightmare cooldown, which is actually really good. You don't want spell lifesteal in Bane. That is unbelievably useless. Spell lifesteal is just terrible on a hero like Bane. However, having a 3-second nightmare cooldown brings it all the way down to a 10-second cooldown. And if you have a certain item, I think you can permanent nightmare people. I'm pretty sure you could. They're enfeebled and you have like the tier 4 item. Even if they're enfeebled enough, I think you can legitimately perma nightmare people with this talent, which is quite comical. Moving on, we have Bat Rider. His level 15 talent was nerfed just by 0.5 seconds, his Flame Break. And at level 25, it was increased by 8 seconds, so this is pretty inconsequential. Beastmaster base damage reduced by 4. This is the first major change we're going to see in terms of a hero, right? A hero change that isn't a talent. And yeah, that's a lot of base damage. I think he had around 66, so now he has 62, which is frankly still good. Does this hurt him? Of course. Does it kill him? Absolutely not. So his level 15 talent, though, was changed from 24 board damage to minus Hawk's cooldown, which, oof. Oh, geez, I don't like this at all. Oh boy. No, I don't like this. Okay, actually, you know what, guys, I was judging it, because originally I'm looking at it, I'm like, getting the board damage at level 15, if you're snowballing on Beastmaster, and you guys play Beastmaster, if you're snowballing on Beastmaster, and you get this level 15 early, your boars shred. They really, really shred. Like, it does so much damage. But minus 14 Hawk cooldown is a lot, right? That is a lot. Beastmaster Hawk cooldown is 30 seconds. Reducing that by 14 is a 16-second cooldown, which is a lot of Hawks, right? That is a lot of Hawks, which is legit. That's pretty legit. That's a lot of vision, right? You can definitely take that over 6 armor, and that's a lot of vision for your team. Like, considering the Hawks cooldown used to be at level 25, because of how much it was obviously seen as a valuable talent by Ice Frog, only reduced by 2 seconds. That seems actually really strong. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Judgmental at first, but this seems very, very big for Beastmaster. Just being an absolute vision nuisance because you can spam Hawks over and over again. Next up, Brewmaster's level 25 talent was increased, so just a bit better on his Primal Split cooldown. Broodmother level 10 talent changed from 200 health to 10 agility, level 15 from 15 agility to 30 attack speed, and level 20 talent changed from 40 attack speed to 400 health. So I think this is just in an attempt to make Brood be a little bit more of a right clicker earlier on, but honestly, I still don't think you're gonna go Brood right click build. I think you're still going to take all the talents on the right for the most part, and people won't go, you know what? I'm not too sure, actually. I think there are some games where you can go 10 agi, 30 attack speed, 400 health, and you're going to be a good right clicker. You're going to be a man-up hero. The level 10 spawn spiderlings damage is pretty notable. It makes your nuke huge. You do so much damage and you one-shot range creeps. So, not sure if you actually take that. Centaur War Runner got his level 10 talent change from 8 evasion to 5 HP regen. Now, the 8 evasion is good, but 5 HP regen sounds hype on Centaur. That sounds like really cool. That sounds nice. So, I like that, you know, I'm cool with that. I'd be down with 5 HP regen on Centaur. That sounds like fun. Level 20 talent changed from 16 strength, minus 20 seconds on Stampede. Now, Stampede, I'm actually not sure of the cooldown on Stampede. I think it's about 100. Okay, it's 110, 190, and so yeah, you could bring it down all the way to a 70-second cooldown. Not insane, obviously, but that's good. However, 16 strength is a lot, right? That's quite a bit of HP. I believe it's 320 HP. So, is this a nerf? That's close, because having 20 seconds less is pretty good. However, the other talent is 70 retaliate damage, which makes you take towers really quickly, and it's really good against certain right-click heroes like Wind Ranger or a Clinks. Chaos Knight, his level 10 talent was increased by 1 for all stats. His other level 10 talent was increased by 5 movement speed. Sure, Clinks immediately getting a nerf after his major buffs. However, it looks like his talents are mostly buffs. Searing Arrows damage reduced by 5 at all levels. So I guess they felt like it was an overbuff. The hero started getting picked quite a bit. So it makes sense. I felt like it would have been cool to see Clinks play out maybe a little bit more, but he was probably doing well. I actually haven't seen the numbers, but he's probably doing well, which is why this is so immediate. Following it up at level 10, we have 1 more strength and 1 more agi. So it's just all buffs. It's just number buffs. It's straight up number buffs. I don't know why this chat line is like this. No, I don't really care, but it's changed instead of increased, even though it's just an increase. You know, what you gonna do? Such is life, it happens. But yeah, it's just a buff to all the numbers on his talents. Pretty big buffs too, so this is how they're balancing it. They're making him much weaker earlier on, but when you get to the talents, you get a bit of a spike. See him getting a slight buff to her Crystal Nova cooldown talent, which is actually a pretty good talent. Darkseer at level 10, his Ion Shell radius is going away. Wow, okay, they're actually just straight up swapping it with Vacuum AoE, which is definitely a huge nerf, because Vacuum AoE is a good talent. Like, I do actually like Vacuum AoE. I like taking Vacuum AoE when I play Darkseer. And now, though, you don't need Vacuum AoE early on. Like, it's not one of those talents you feel like you need early on. You kind of want it maybe when you get, like, your Helm Dom or, like, later into the game when you start team fighting more. But at level 10, I would much rather have the Ion Shell radius, because at that point in the game, you're just more interested in using your Ion Shell to just damage heroes and put it on heroes like Ember and Slark and, you know, Clockwork, and get them to run around the map and just kill people. So, pretty big nerf in my opinion. And then at level 20, his Ion Shell damage was actually reduced, so Darkseer nerf. Dark Willow is getting some intelligence at level 10, which I think is a buff, because you don't really need the damage. You shouldn't be right-clicking too much, to be honest, so I'd rather just have some extra mana. It's actually quite a lot of mana as well. However, do you take that over 100 cast range? I would say probably not. Not as long as you're buying a wand, you're going to have plenty of mana in my opinion. However, now they're moving the damage talent to level 20. And this scares me because, guys, please, like, these dark, like, Ags, Mask of Madness, Moonshard, Dark Willows are so unbelievably bad. It's just such a bad take on the hero. It legitimately is just awful. Why not just pick, like, Sniper? You do the same damage with, like, 1 item, or, like, I don't know, Medusa. You farm 3 times as fast and then do the same thing. It just makes no sense. People just, I don't know, just... I'm not... Dude, what are they with these level 10 magic resist talents? Disruptor now has 20 magic resist instead of health. I mean, 20 magic resist is a lot, right? But I don't know if I want that over 175 health. Like, it's probably about the same, to be honest. This definitely scales better, you know what I mean? Like, 20% magic resist is a scaling talent. It's probably slightly worse earlier on and better later, but that's just weird. I don't know. It's just weird to me. Some pretty cool changes to Drow. This is a tough one for me, but I actually like what they did here. So Drow now either has the option to get 5 all stats, which is pretty tempting on a hero like Drow, right? You're a right clicker, or 40% Gust Blind at level 10, which is cool because Gust Blind is cool. The only issue I have is that at this point you're probably not gonna have your Gust maxed, right? At level 10 you're not gonna have Gust maxed. You either have like 1 point, maybe 2, right? Maybe 2 points, and because of that, it makes the Gust Blind talent not nearly as good getting into level 10, right? What Gust Blind does, by the way, is it makes you miss. It just straight up makes you miss as far as I'm concerned. It's sort of like a, you know, a Cuddle Blinding Light, hence the name Blind. But yeah, I kind of like this. It can be niche good. Usually you won't take it, but in certain games this can be good at level 10. Most games you're going to take 5 stats though. Ember Spirit, 20 damage talent to level 15. I remember the day when Ember Spirit had like I think it was either 18 or 15% spell amp at level 10. Those were the days. I don't know if you guys remember that patch. That was some funny stuff. This hero was like literally first pick, first ban. It actually kind of still is right now, which is funny because it keeps getting nerfed. Even these changes I don't think will kick this hero out of the meta. It's just so versatile, so mobile. It's hard not to like Ember Spirit as part of any team comp. But yeah, I think the other changes are trying to balance it out a little bit. You know, 15 more damage with Sleight of Fist, but that's not nearly as good. I would far rather have 5 damage at level 10. And then actually a nerf to the level 25 talent, so kind of rough. Gyro got some pretty significant nerfs to his talents. These are just straight up nerfs. 3 less damage at 10, 25 less health at 10 if that's what you want. Instead of getting 9 rocket barrage damage, which is it's a pretty nice talent at level 15. It makes you feel like you have this pretty nice magical damage spike. Now it's just 40 seconds on cooldown, which in my opinion is pretty garbage. It's not actually garbage, like to be honest, but from 90 seconds to 50, you're probably not going to get too off in a fight, right? I would significantly rather have 9 more rocket barrage damage, so I consider this a nerf. Then at level 20, like at level 20, do you really still want the magical? Like I think Gyro can hit this nice timing at level 15 where he has like, you know, BKB, Ags, and this talent, and he feels really strong, but like, this is just a nerf in my opinion. That's just a nerf. Here, Gyro got nerfed. Wow, Invoker's back in the meta, baby! Chaos Meteor contact damage up by 20, oh my gosh. No way, that's so cool. What a great talent to make Exhort Invoker useful. Not. This hero's trash. Actually trash. Alright, let's get into Juggernaut. Fixed Helm of the Dominator, not affecting your hero during Omni Slash. So that's actually weird because I don't know who figures these things out or who complains to them. Like it's like some Redditors like, oh, Ice Frog. So Helm of the Dominator actually doesn't affect me when I'm Omni Slashing. And can you please fix it in the next patch? Otherwise, I'm gonna uninstall. And then, yeah, I guess that's how Ice Frog figures out that Helm of the Dominator does not affect your hero during Omni Slash. But that is actually extremely notable. Like, it is a big deal, to be fair. Helm of the Dominator, assuming that means not just the regen, but also the 20% damage, it's actually extremely significant. This is actually, like, technically a big buff for Jug, because Helm of the Dominator, it's pretty common in terms of an item. Omni Slash now waits for 0.15 seconds before ending when it doesn't find any valid target, rather than instantly ending, which is really bizarre. So I think what this means is that it also has now 0.15 seconds, obviously before ending, but also 0.15 seconds longer to lock on to another target. No, it doesn't. So this doesn't mean that it will lock onto another target. It just takes a little bit of time before ending, which is weird. Maybe this will keep people safe from Mask of Madness, because very often Jugs would click Mask and their Omni Slash would end, and then they would die. So I'm not exactly sure what this is supposed to do. If you're a Jug main and you want to let us know why this is important, sure, you could tell us, but maybe it's just not important. Keeper of Light still getting nerfed, 2 less damage, lol. Zero's like 3 damage now. Keeper of Light actually does less damage than a range creep. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like it is. Kunkka, pretty big talent buffs, 2 more strength at level 25, and 20% Tidebringer cleave at level 25, which is a ton. Leshrac got another buff here. Technically, one of them is a nerf, but overall, Leshrac getting a slight buff. I would say it's a slight buff. 10 more damage on his Lightning Storm at all levels, which is nice. That's nice. And then 25 health at level 20. However, he loses 2 damage on his Diabolic Edict Explosions, but this is not that big of a deal. It's a level 25 talent, so it's fairly insignificant. Can Leshrac get to level 25? Of course. This is a type of hero that definitely can get a lot of levels. So it matters, but not the end of the world. Lion now has a level 15, 15% mana drain slow talent, which honestly I kind of like, because mana drain, a lot of people forget that it slows in the first place, but mana drain at max is a 35% movement slow, which is already kind of nuts. You add 15% onto that, and you have a 50% slow. 50%! The hard part about this, and the reason why it's not that good though, even though it's 50%, is because it's hard to channel mana drain in a fight. It can be very, very difficult. I recommend if you do take this talent, you have an Aether Lens and not a Blink. I actually significantly recommend rushing Aether Lens over Blink on line in most games, especially with the fact that you can use mana drain to slow people. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Magnus actually getting a small buff, Shockwave cooldown reduced by 1 at all levels. Lycan also lost 10 movement speed, which is huge by the way. Like 10 movement speed, that actually really, really hurts this hero, so pretty significant. Spear Mars mana crease increased by 10 at all levels. Actually, I'm sorry, it goes up by 10. So it goes from 110 now, instead of starting at 100, it starts at 110, then goes to 120, then 130, then 140, pretty bad. Also, Bulwark toggle will now be turned off when casting Spear of Mars. You can't just like keep moving in Bulwark. I still imagine that this allows you to throw it behind yourself in Bulwark, but it will end your Bulwark. On top of that, Mars got some really cool talent changes. These seem really cool. Instead of 6 strength, you now can get 15 damage, which is quite a lot of damage considering you have the built-in crit. And then your other option at level 10 is 2 seconds Spear Mars cooldown, which seems awesome. That's like 2 seconds is really big considering Spear Mars is a low cooldown spell, as is it's only 14 seconds, which means that it brings it all the way down to a 12-second stun. Like, that's a pretty good talent. Now, 15 damage is tempting though with your W early on, so this is actually a pretty cool, I like this a lot. This is a pretty hard decision to make in my opinion. For some reason, Monkey King got buffed, but whatever, we'll just ignore that. Nature's Prophet now has a really bizarre level 10 talent, which is 15 Wrath of Nature base damage. So if we go to Wrath of Nature to really understand this, his ultimate previous to that did 110 damage. Then per each level, it would go up by 30 damage. So this is like a half a level talent, which is good, right? It's a half a level talent. And on top of that, what we should note is that you get added damage per bounce, right? So the amount of damage that your ulti does is based upon how many times it bounces. So, a 30 damage increase or a 15 damage increase is actually very significant because every time it bounces, that number gets increased by 11%. Do I think you will take this over 25 damage? I personally don't think so. I think maybe if you're a support and you're going utility, or if you're going like mech build, you'll consider it. But I think for Nature's Prophet, I would generally rather have 25 damage. However, I'd like to see this 15 Wrath of Nature damage talent play out because it is strong. Like, I definitely think it's strong. Next up, let's talk about OD because he actually got some changes. His Essence Flux slow got massively increased, massively, by 9% at level 1, then 8%, then 7%, then 6%. Huge. That is huge for this slow, especially early on. It's actually practical now. Maybe to even gank occasionally on OD. That's a big slow increase. On top of that, his Sanity Eclipse damage, at least base damage, was increased by 25 at level 2 and 50 at level 3. And then he got some talent buffs. So overall, the hero, in terms of numbers, is pretty good now, I'd say. Or at least getting better. OD is a weird hero. Pangolier got 100 less cast range. On top of that, his slash range, though, was increased by 100. So kind of weird because the cast range was reduced. So now basically what this means is that it's still good for hitting people, but the spell is worse for getting away. That's how you should look at it. Pangolier is much worse at disengaging, which I think is notable because when this hero is picked as a support, you're very, very concerned about disengaging, right? However, this actually makes it much easier to do things like secure range creeps and, actually clip people with it. So, in the lane, I actually think this is somewhat of a buff, but for the mid game, it makes you a little bit less mobile, which I'd say is a nerf. On top of that, PA got some very notable talent changes here. 5% cleave at level 15, 6% more blur at level 20, and at level 25, instead of 8% coup de grace chance, you now have plus 100 coup de grace critical damage, which brings PA's crit to a staggering percentage. The amount you crit, 550% crit. So if you hit someone for 100 damage, it instead will do 550 damage, which is pretty nuts. So going into the late game, I can't even imagine the crits you can possibly get. Like with the Deso Rapier, man, that is legitimately scary. The amount of damage you could possibly do. Phoenix losing 2 intelligence, very upsetting for Phoenix. The hero's been getting consistently nerfed, but it makes sense because he keeps getting picked by the pros. Ricky lost 5 damage at level 15, which I think is notable. Overall, the hero's been doing pretty well, so it makes sense that he's getting some kind of meh changes. But also at level 25, now instead of Cloak and Dagger doesn't reveal, which is the talent that lets you just stay invis the entire game, like at the end you could hit someone and it wouldn't take you out of invis, pretty funny. It is now instead 125 smokescreen AoE, which is actually so much AoE, it makes the smokescreen huge. It's literally huge. So I think if you take the smokescreen talent at level 15, you definitely can consider smokescreen AoE if you're like, for some reason, a utility Ricky. But I think overall, 6 seconds strict to the trade is hard to pass up. That is very difficult to pass up. But 125 smokescreen AoE is pretty legit. That's a huge AoE. Just as a side note, guys, Shadow Shaman, 1 armor, baby. That's actually a pretty big deal for a hero that can get picked on in a laning stage because of how slow he is. So it definitely makes sense to me that, he just gets a base armor increase like this kind of randomly. I think it's cool. We're going to see some sniper changes. So I don't know if you guys knew, funny enough, but this hero is getting picked as a position 4. Yes, sniper was getting picked as a position 4. And now all of a sudden he just gets hard nerfed. The hero's win rate was actually absurdly high in high MMR games, which is funny. Like sniper support, I'm not kidding. And yeah, so they just hard nerfed him, especially as a support. For the other roles, this hurts him, of course, because you still cast your spells as a core, but now Shrapnel Slow is 3% less at level 1, which obviously hurts you early on. And your Scepter Assassinate, which is obviously what you would buy on Support Sniper, is now 0.3 seconds less, which is notable considering you're spamming it. 0.3 seconds is quite a bit of time. At level 10, you lose another 5% on your CDR, so before the 20%, I think it was 25, so you had 25% CDR. Now you have 15, which is unbelievably bad. 10% less from what it was. Oof. Viper got a pretty notable buff. I actually do think this is pretty good for Viper, but basically your Nether Toxin maximum DPS has been increased by 20 at all levels, and what this is really good for is just the level 1 in particular, because it gives you 20 more damage at level 1, and this is good for pushing out the lane and jungling. That's mainly the main way you should look at it, because for Nether Toxin, you only need to take a value point, right? You only need 1 point in the spell, and when you take 1 point in the spell, basically all of a sudden you can just wipe through camps and stacks at ease, so this makes it even easier. Void Spirit actually lost 5 movement speed and 5 damage, again, similar to Ember. These heroes have been really the mids of the patch, I would say. Overall, like, they're the most popular hero on Dota 2 Pro Tracker, and so yeah, 5 movement speed and 5 damage at 10 is pretty bad for this hero. Wind Ranger, however, support Wind Ranger is now legit. This hero is actually probably one of the best in Dota at the moment. I'm definitely kidding. But now your Shackle Shot cooldown is increased by 0.5 seconds, right? So pretty good. This brings Shackle Shot all the way down to an 8-second cooldown, which is pretty good. In fact, I think that's already what it was before the 20%, so this is probably just bringing it back up. Wraith King lost 0.2 strength gain, and his talents were nerfed a bit. And funny enough, because this level 20 talent is kind of bizarre. It was 1.8 times skeleton spawn. Instead now it's just plus 6 skeletons, which is okay. Like, just take your Reincar and strength talents, guys. Like, the skeleton talents can be situationally okay, but just take the attack speed and then stick to the right for the most part. And finally, last but not least, actually no, definitely least, Zeus lost 0.5 mana regen. Heartbreaking for Zeus. I really do feel bad for all of you Zeus people, but that was a long and grueling patch. I'm not gonna lie. This is one of those patches that kind of just bores me. Like, it's just so many talent changes, and talents are one of those things in Dota where it's just impossible to keep track of all of them and all these things and learn about all of them, and it's just so tiring to really read through all of them. But nonetheless, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I love the fact that Dota has gotten updated in the time span of, what, 4 days? That's pretty cool. 4 days, and Dota has been updated twice, and pretty big patches. Both of them were pretty big patches, like quite big patches. So am I excited to see that? Of course. I hope Dota can keep up patches at this rate. I do hope they make more, like cooler changes, because I think most of them are pretty lame. But, the fact that they made Helm of the Dominator now affect you during Omnislash just makes me unbelievably excited. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one. It was a pleasure, as always, reviewing patch 7.26c. And, yeah, peace. And hey guys, remember, before you end this video, in the link down below, I've been playing a lot of live games where I talk about my thoughts in real time in the middle of a Dota match. So if you want to get in the head of a pro player, click the link down below to the gameleap website. Super cheap right now, right? Like, and I'm doing this a ton. We all have time on our hands. I have time to make content. You guys probably have time to enjoy and learn Dota, get better at the game. So yeah, if that combo works for you, click the link down below and I'll see you there.